what's really interesting about this is while people were tuned in on the spectacle and the heroic aspects of it, they really don't understand what it all means. And this is not the first time that's happened. Back in 1492, as un-PC as this may be, and I will use some un-PC examples, but this guy Columbus, who actually thought the world was smaller than it was, so that he could go to the east by sailing west. By the way, at the time, I just want to be clear, nobody thought the world was flat. That was introduced in the biography of Columbus by a guy named Washington Irving. They had actually figured out the world was round back in Greek times, in ancient Greece. His point was that he thought it was smaller than it was, which probably made him not necessarily the brightest lamp on the rack there. But he went to the New World, and as it turned out, of course, it was a huge bonanza for everybody in Europe, much to the chagrin of the folks who were, quote unquote, being discovered. But here's what's really interesting. Other than navigators and an elite group of very highly educated people who cared about such things, nobody else in Europe really paid attention. In fact, almost 20 years later, when King Ferdinand of Ferdinand and Isabella, who had underwritten these missions, actually wrote the first draft of his memoirs, he didn't even mention the New World. Almost 20 years later, he didn't even mention it. There were other things that had his attention, like taking back the peninsula that Spain is on from the Muslims, or God forbid, he and his wife setting up the Spanish Inquisition and dealing with all the other things going on in Europe. Didn't even mention that the explorers of the time had done something that was going to change the rest of human history. We're in that same boat right now. And the explorers of the time now are just as flashy and wild as some of those folks back then were. And look, it's really cool. We know it's cool. It's fun. But it's not really about these guys. It's about this lady right here, the Mother Earth. You see, I really care about the Earth. I care about people. And I believe that people are good, and I believe this planet is, you might call it a blessing in the universe. We may be the only planet that harbors life. We hope, we wish that in some of the billions and billions of others out there, there may be life all over the universe. We don't know. I'm not necessarily a gambling man, but when it comes to gambling on things like this, I'll go with the cards I have in front of me. This is the planet I care about. So until now, there have been a lot of discussions about space, and we have these standard reasons we all like to roll out: science, planetary defense, stopping the asteroids, the environment, politics and strategy, strategic control, resources a bit. We're starting to talk about that now. Tourism, as they call it. I call it personal space flight. Energy, in other words, things we can do by collecting sunlight and converting it, and just economics of the things we can do to make money in space. And that's great. But the real reasons, the most important ones, are these: the preservation of human culture. In other words, how do we protect and preserve human civilization? And how do we advance human society? Where do we go to do the next thing after democracy? Where do we expand our species to? Speaking of that, the expansion of life itself, protecting and expanding the domain of life, and the fulfillment of universal self-awareness. What I mean by that is experience. The idea that the universe, when it doesn't have sentient beings that it can experience it, the universe is just matter and energy forever and ever. We are the eyes, ears, hands, minds, and experience of the universe. I have a whole nonprofit dedicated to that. You can see it in the corner, Earthlight Foundation. There'll be more coming out on that in the next few months. But these are the big reasons. Now, we went into space originally for reasons of strategy and other things. But other than what happened in the first race that I'm going to talk about in a moment, we've really kept ourselves locked into sort of a psychological cage. It isn't gravity, it isn't radiation, it isn't vacuum, it isn't anything that's out there that keeps us on the ground, because we did it over 50 years ago. In fact, we had a race after this little baby was launched around the planet, Sputnik, and got us all excited and fearful. But we raced to the moon. And on the way there, interestingly, we did turn around and take some pictures of the Earth. And they helped start the environmental movement and give us the idea that there are no borders down here, and created what my friend Frank White calls the overview effect. At the same time, it gave us a sense that we could do anything. Remember, we went from a standing start to having human beings walking on the moon in about 8 years. A standing start to people walking on the moon in 8 years. Unfortunately, at the end of the process, all we had was flags and footprints, because once we had landed on the moon, once we had taken that most expensive selfie ever of Buzz and Neil, that was it. We were done. We had accomplished it. We had proven that the free enterprise democratic system in the United States was more badass than the Soviets. Now, a lot of things came out of that. In fact, some of the technologies we're using right now to host this meeting and be in this meeting, and you're the way you're participating, actually did come from that. But one of the most important spinoffs was a group of children who were engaged in watching it, paying attention to it, believing it, getting excited, sitting in front of a thing we used to call the television set. And you can imagine a kid of that time flipping the channels and seeing some pretty horrible stuff going on. Wars, some pretty disgusting role models, race riots, the threat of nuclear Armageddon. We were all going to die. In fact, there was a belief that any time at that point, the world could be destroyed. And the Union of Concerned Scientists had a clock that had us basically 1 minute to midnight. In other words, the end of human civilization. Yet as they kept flipping those channels, they would see things like people are driving around on the moon. Captain Kirk is flying into the universe. We had great role models. Astronauts, can-do, respectable people doing great things. We had fictional role models, incredible heroes. And in the mind of a child, this all blurs together. At the same time, Voyager, Galileo are going out into the universe. We could do anything. We could go anywhere. And in the minds of a child, they climb into the spaceship and they go themselves. And so there we were, this young generation, Apollo's children or the orphans of Apollo, depending on how you look at it. And we were all pumped up, ready to go. So in the end of the 70s, we were promised that something great was going to happen. It was called the Space Shuttle. It was going to be 100% reusable, as this image from Boeing shows. And it was basically going to bring the cost of going into space down to about $50 a pound. Again, we could do anything. We believed it. My former boss, Jerry O'Neill, wrote a book called The High Frontier. And he said, look, you don't have to be an astronaut. You just have to be a dreamer, a visionary, a person who can go out there and be a pioneer yourself. Take your dreams, free enterprise, and go out into the future. You can do it. He spun off a ton of organizations. I'm showing you this again, because these roots are there. A lot of stuff that you see happening today started in the 70s through the 80s and 90s. We call it the New Space Revolution. And organizations like the L5 Society, the first commercial rocket launch, which took place off the coast of Texas here. It failed, but it was the first. Organization that I was lucky enough to be able to start called the Space Frontier Foundation. We became activists and immediately engaged in battle with the aerospace industrial complex. You see, what had happened was after the end of Apollo, basically the aerospace industrial complex had been created, but now it had nowhere to go. The visionary leadership was gone. And yet you still had the money-hungry, finance-hungry people, the political people who had space centers in their states, aerospace lobbyists, working the system. And so we started just going in circles. We basically quit exploring. And by the way, the shuttle never materialized at 50 times a year or $100 a pound to go into space. Starting around the mid-'80s, it became around $10,000 a pound to go into orbit. And of course, then you had to get in line. And if you weren't a friend of the government, you couldn't go. So some of us fought very hard during that period to stop that, to shut that down. Now, there was a big panic among some folks. And it's all kind of quaint now that we've seen what SpaceX is doing. But everybody was freaking out. Oh, my God, the shuttle is ending. It's all over. But it wasn't the end. It was the beginning. We had to clear the big trees to let the little ones grow, might be an analogy. And the period is over now. This period is coming to an end completely. It's over. With the flight of that SpaceX Dragon docking to the space station, or berthing as you call it, things have begun to change. Now, my friends and I, we got a lot of credit for that. We were considered to be the people that had led the revolution, and that was a lot of fun. But by God, the revolution isn't over yet. We're still in the middle of it, and there's a lot of work to be done. We are still somewhat trapped in the cage. But sometime right about now, and I mean 2 or 3 years in the past and 2 or 3 years in the future, right exactly in this period of time, that cage is about to get blown wide open. Because you see, we have 3 keys that we need to be able to open the frontier of space, and we're almost there. Number 1, you need to be able to get to and from the frontier cheaply, reliably, and regularly. Number 2, you need to be able to use the resources there, wherever they are, for whatever purpose you need. And the profits from that should be able to go to whoever is willing to do the work. Number 3, we need governments who are either supportive or stay out of the way. That's it. Now, we're making progress, as I said. So let's start first. Government non-interference and support. A few years ago, I was able to put together a summit in DC. We got 100 of some of the top policy space leaders in the country into one room and got them to agree that human settlement and a thriving space economy should be the basis of the U.S. human spaceflight program. That led to a series of laws that have been passed now. The Asteroid Act, the Frontier Act, all of these different laws are being passed in the U.S. And by the way, they were written up by a Republican Congress and signed by a Democratic president originally. Still going, though. Other countries dove in. Luxembourg, I was privileged to work with them. And then UAE, they've jumped in. By the way, they're the first, UAE is the first country on Earth to declare their intent to build a colony on Mars. You would have thought the US would do that, but we're a little behind the curve. Lots of new policies have come in over time that are allowing us to do this. More and more countries are drafting policies. And as you've seen under the current administration, there's been a real push in that area. Also, part of the reason is because there's some other folks that are interested in going. Everybody wants to go to the moon right now. The reason is that if you have the moon, you have some of the best high ground in the solar system. And if you have the poles of the moon, there are craters there that at the bottom of which are ice. I'm going to come back to that. But people want to use the resources of space. And that brings me to the next point. Being able to use the resources. Now, there are basic resources we don't even think about. Location, communication satellites, gravity or the lack of gravity allows you to do all kinds of things. Vacuum, the ability to have 24/7 sunlight, and of course the physical resources of moon and asteroid mining and things like that. Those are critical so that once you're up there, you can begin to expand. It's not like we're going to begin bringing it all back down here. It's originally going to be used to leverage us going out there. So for your example, look at this early spaceship, one of the used to go across the Great Plains. These are the engines. This is the propellant, literally living off the land as they move forward. We will do the same thing in space as we begin to harvest asteroids. And as I mentioned, mine the ice of the moon. By the way, it's very simple. You just aim light down there, put a big plastic dome over it. The water evaporates. You capture the water and you've got it. Why is water so important? Because water is the gold of space. You can drink it. You can break it into oxygen and hydrogen. You can breathe it, and you can make rocket propellant from it. We're still in the cage, though. We want to do all of these things, but it's still hugely expensive to get out there and do it. Thus comes the last key. Low cost, regular, reliable spaceflight. And here is where some of our current rock stars step in, because these were kids who were watching those TV shows into the 70s and early 80s. People like Richard Branson, Jeff Bezos, and that Musk guy. You know, Jeff Bezos used to have a book called The High Frontier in his collection that he used to sell to his school friends. When he graduated, he said, I'm going to make money and go build colonies in space. And so the revolution started. You saw some of these first elements with the landing. Beautiful stuff. Moving along. Jeff Bezos is doing the same thing. He's committed $1 billion plus a year. And SpaceX is rocking along amazingly. Many of you may have seen images of the hopper down in South Texas that's being built. The idea is to go point to point on the Earth first and then work your way out into space. But when it's fully realized, this is what it'll be. An amazing spacecraft. Literally now it goes from being called the launch industry to spaceships, because you don't throw anything away. One of the cardinal rules of frontier ethic is you don't throw anything away. Now, some of the other things that have helped enable this are the small size and the ability of startups to get funding. This Israeli startup actually tried to move into going to the moon at one point recently. And it looks like I've just had a slide freeze. I don't know if you can still hear me.
Yes, audio is good.
Okay.
Yeah, your audio is fine.
Okay, let me keep going if it doesn't freeze. And okay, Houston, we've got a problem.
I think he has a problem. I'll call him, see what's going on.
Okay. May have to restart and come back.
All right, everyone. Houston just contacted Apollo 13. His computer had a mild meltdown. He's restarting it, but when he does, he'll be back up. How's everyone enjoyed the conference so far? Bueller? Bueller?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
All right.
you can absolutely hear it.
Can you see me?
Yes, we can.
What was there's a number I should hit, right?
The M as in Mike, M.
There we are.
Yep, perfect.
Okay, I heard Mr. Pro there. Anyway, okay. Oh, I thought I had it bad. All right. Do you have any people left watching, or?
Yeah, everybody stay in the environment.
Okay, great. You know what I think I'm going to do? I'm not going to do the rest of the show. I'm just going to talk, if you don't mind.
Yeah, questions or yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So look, here's the thing. What I was trying to set up and explain was the fact that we are at a tipping point, as Malcolm Gladwell would say, in history. We are about to experience something when it comes to space. If Elon is successful in the development of Starship, what that means is that within the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to be able to have at least one vehicle, and Bezos is working on something similar, and the Chinese, of course, are going to follow up, that will allow hundreds of people at a time to go into space. Now, why is this important? Well, you know, this thing here is it's an iPhone. It's an app development platform. What's great about it is it allows app developers access to be able to get in here and connect in terms of the universe of human communications and knowledge. And they've developed all kinds of amazing things. And this technology came out of government, military technologies. But now the people have access and incredible things happen, including lots of things that maybe are a little bit weird. But that access transformed the universe of human communications and arguably the planet itself. Now, our access to space itself right now is limited to the International Space Station. The International Space Station carries between 3 and 6 people at a time, but it takes 2.75 people just to keep it running, just to keep the lights on, so to speak. That means that normally 1/4 of one person's time is available to come up with new ideas, do experimentation, stare out the window and think about what could be done, develop IP, new products, etc. 1/4 of one person, up to 3 1/4 people at its maximum capacity. That's it. Now that is our app development platform, literally, for the universe itself. That's it right there. Now, if in the next few years, with SpaceX's work on Starship and the others, we are suddenly able to put 100 people at a time, which is Starship's capacity. By the way, I call that a Mayflower class spaceship. In other words, the Mayflower was about 100 people per flight. Oh, and by the way, I don't care if Elon goes to Mars or not. I mean, God bless him. He's got a whole Jones on about Mars. That's amazing. I love that. But if he's able to deliver 100 people into orbit once a year or 5 or 10 or 1,000 times a year, everything changes for humanity. Because once those people are unleashed up there, once those people are able to work in that environment and be able to explore and study and learn and develop products and IP, all hell's going to break loose in a hopefully positive way. That's where we are right now. You've seen it starting to happen coming out of the space station. You saw that amazing flight. You saw the technology. You saw the smoothness of that entire mission. It's interesting to note that, as a friend of mine did, that SpaceX is about 14 years old. In the first 7 years of their existence, they flew about 10 missions. In the second 7 years of their existence, they've flown another 90. Once they got rolling, things really started to crank. Just imagine if that happens with something like Starship. first 10 years or so, they're going to launch a lot of their constellations. And then as that gets rolling and they get better and better and they feel more and more secure about the safety, then they're going to start launching human beings. So within 10 years, we could see thousands, if not more, people actually living and working on the frontier. So that's a really exciting thing. You know, it's just going to be transformative. Now, as we move out into the frontier, there are different areas that we're going to be moving into. So, for example, the moon. The moon is great as far as a place to go where you've got gravity that's dirty, bathed in radiation and vacuum to practice for going to Mars. It's also one of the 5 or 6 places in the solar system that if you control it, you basically control the solar system. Among those would be low Earth orbit, the north and south poles of the moon, and what are called the Lagrange points, which are gravitational eddies between the Earth and the moon that occur between any bodies in space. They're sort of a place where you don't need a lot of fuel, and there's asteroids probably that have just ended up there kind of swirling around, and that's where you would put potential communities in space. And that, again, as you begin to move out of low Earth orbit, by the way, we have the first commercial space facilities coming online very soon. We've invested in some of them. But as you begin to move out of Earth orbit, then you get into what I call free space, which is the place between worlds where we could build entire cities. You can build as large as you want. You've got 24/7 energy, and you've got the resources of the solar system. So it's going to be a very, very exciting time. And it's because we know that's happening that we started Space Fund. I've been in the field quite a while. And, you know, they say that the best person to ask about where the minefield is the person on the other side with one leg. In a sense, I'm that person when it comes to starting space projects. I've had several failures, some great failures. I had a spacesuit company that was taken down by a rocket company we were associated with. Back in the 90s, my friend Peter Diamandis and I both had companies trying to go to the moon. And as you may have heard a few years ago, Peter and I both had separate companies that were going to go mine asteroids. We were a little bit early, but the idea is still valid. And frankly, we ended up, as the company was acquired, flying, I think we have 20 plus thrusters in orbit right now that came out of Deep Space Industries. So that is going to happen. But what I did was I decided to take that knowledge and join up with a partner of mine, Megan Crawford, who I hope you'll have with you next year as well. She's the startup whisperer in space, and she and I started Space Fund. Space Fund's goal is to enable the opening of the frontier through wise business investing, taking visionary business investors and putting them in touch with visionary space entrepreneurs. And our other goal is to eventually begin to democratize space, figure out ways that more and more people can get engaged by putting their money, time, and sweat into this and be able to be a part of opening the frontier. So we're really excited about that. Space Fund is a venture capital company. It's all traditional. The corporation is based in Texas, in Austin and Houston. And all of the corporate structures, other than the holding company, are traditional Delaware-based companies. We just closed Space Fund 1. It was an experimental fund. We basically wanted to demonstrate that we knew what we were doing. It was only $1 million fund. We just closed it about 3 weeks ago in about 6 months. And we've actually already deployed a chunk of the money. Some of the companies we've deployed into are, they're very there's a variety of them, but they represent different aspects of space, and especially the frontier aspects. So among them were Made in Space, which is a space manufacturing development corporate company. They were the first ones to fly 3D printing, additive manufacturing in space. They were recently acquired, which was a great exit for us. The second was Orbit Fab. Orbit Fab is run by my former CEO, Dan Faber. Orbit Fab is doing something really cool that's leaning forwards into that frontier space resources arena that's going to be available to us. They're basically right now installing gas caps on the propellant tanks of satellites. Because you see, up until now, the useful life of your $1 billion DirecTV satellite was tied to how much propellant you had to stay on location. And once that propellant ran out, you were toast. It was over. You just threw it away. So what's happening now is we move into this frontier period as you're starting to see the support services, the first phase, which are going to be in this robotic realm of satellites coming into being. So we have tugboat services. The first couple have already been launched. At the same time as the idea of refueling. So Dan Faber brilliantly has decided the first thing he's going to do, if you look at the development life of design, building, and flying a spacecraft, that could be several years, was early in that development life, begin to get communication satellite developers to start putting gas caps on their propellant tanks, with the idea that soon enough, he's going to be able to refuel them in orbit. Dan has already flown an experiment on the space station and moved propellant between containers. He's already gotten another contract, and he's moving forward. He was our second investment. Our third investment was a company called Axiom. Axiom is developing a private space station. Now, the great thing about them is, of course, it's a much bigger project than the first two. It was founded by the guy who used to run the space station and his partner who used to train the astronauts to go into space. They've already got several contracts with NASA, and their first thing that they're going to be doing is flying citizen astronauts. And then they're going to be adding a module onto the space station. It's going to have a cupola, which is just basically a window. And then there'll be another one that'll be a hotel room. Now, as they grow, they're basically just going to grow off the side of the space station. And when they get large enough, they'll break away and literally bud from the station, and you'll end up with two. There are other companies that are doing that as well. Now, as we've closed our round, we've begun moving into some other funds. We're doing a stealth single stage spaceflight company. We don't really like to invest in launch companies. There are far too many of them. And if you have money to invest in space, I would urge you to talk to us. A, we would love to work with you. But B, if you're planning on getting into launch, please don't. You're going to waste your money in most cases. There are over 125 launch companies right now. There's probably at the end of the day room for 5 or 10. And that includes the big buses and trucks like SpaceX's Starship and the Ubers and Lyfts, which will be the small ones that are bespoke types of space systems that'll take you here or there if you have 1 or 2 satellites to launch. But other than that, there's not much room left in the field for these kinds of activities. We also did invest in a little company called SpaceX. We were able to scoop up some shares in their last round, and probably will do so again in another round coming up next year. And then we're looking at some other companies that I can't talk about. We're having our investment committee meeting next week. But these involve, two of the companies we're looking at now are going to be involving some of the first products, consumer-related products. Most of the stuff I'm talking about is B2B, or, I mean, you could consider people buying tickets to go into space sort of a consumer thing. But I'm talking about stuff that would be available to folks like us who aren't billionaires. So that's coming down the pike. It's really going to be an exciting time, and we are now beginning the raise of Space Fund 2, which will be a $20 million fund. Yes, you do have to be an accredited investor. However, you don't have to come in at a full amount. Our ticket size is about 200K, but we are putting together a special purpose vehicle. We also have someone who's working with us who now is able to help shift your 401k into a privately managed 401k, so you can invest in companies like or through us into companies like these. So we're very excited about what's coming on in the future. Now, for those of you who maybe aren't interested in investing in space right now, but do want to get engaged somehow, and maybe you're doing really well on the ride up on the blockchain shares and ownership, and you're going to need a tax write-off, reach out to me as well. We have 2 not-for-profits, the Earthlight Foundation, which is building an endowment. And as you know, endowments are the gift that keep on giving. And we're going to be funding space education and research out of the endowment. We're also working on some other areas. We're going to probably be putting on webinars at top-level Earth meets space things like space solar power, planetary defense. On the flip side, planetary protection. Planetary defense is asteroids coming in. Planetary protection is how do we stop killing off life on other planets as we go out. But we're going to be looking at all of those things. We've also got the New Worlds Institute, and the New Worlds Institute is going to be doing actually hardcore sort of research support. So if we find people that are working on very cool little niche activities that could feed into the broader field, the New Worlds Institute will be supporting that. The biggest project the New Worlds Institute is working on right now is called the Space Development Matrix, which is what we like to think of as a three-dimensional matrix that helps us identify what's being done and what needs to be done technologically in terms of building a human civilization in space. It might be something that you would consider like a punch list, which is, if you know anything about building or architecture, a punch list is what they use at the end of the construction to say, okay, do we have all the hinges in? Do the toilets flush? Does the electricity work? Are the walls good? Have they been painted? Well, imagine that at the beginning of the project, and then going through that list and saying, well, hold it, nobody's developed paint that you can use inside of a space habitat, or how do we grow lettuce effectively in zero G? So that's what the Space Development Matrix is going to be about. It's going to be connecting small teams of people around the world who are working on different aspects of space development together so they can effectively move the ball forward. And most importantly, as they come together and the matrix begins to fill in, we'll start to see where the holes are. That, maybe nobody has worked on that flushing toilet, one of the last things everybody wants to do, right? So we're going to be looking at all those different things. So there are three different things: New Worlds Institute, Earthlight Foundation, and of course, if you're interested in investing, talk to me about Space Fund. I know we're coming up on the top of the hour here, and I apologize for having lost some time there. I'm better at space than I am at PowerPoint, obviously. But I do want to say to you that, it's very, very important that you are cognizant of what is happening in this field. Don't be like the rest of Europe when Columbus landed, in this hemisphere. Pay attention, get engaged. Again, one of the great things about our nonprofits is that allows you to come to conferences like our New Worlds Conference or our big party, which is the Space Cowboy Ball. And you can actually meet people and start hanging around or volunteer. You can reach me at rick@spacefund.com, or you can follow me at Rocket Rick on the Twitterdom. And drop me a note if you're very interested or you want to talk, or frankly, if you just have a question. I am very, very happy to answer what my friends and I call the bullshit, no bullshit questions. Because look, as in any field that is taking off as ours is, you're going to run into a lot of people with a lot of promises. In fact, I work with engineers so much that I usually use a multiple effect. Whenever they tell me a time, I multiply it. But what is really, really significant here, most important of all, is that we really do stand on the edge of the universe. And we are at one of those moments in time. I hope that the COVID-19 virus has begun to teach us that we are a connected planet, and that what we do has impact both on humanity and the world itself. We have new generations rising up right now who don't see borders, who work together seamlessly. And what's great about space is as we begin to go out into it, it becomes very clear that it exemplifies many of the values, many of the ideas we need. If you're locked in the space station, everybody in that station is your family, and you don't care what race they are, you don't care where they came from. During the entire Cold War, through now, as we're having problems with Russia, there's one place in the solar system that Americans and Russians not only get along with each other, but literally care about each other. And it's 150 miles up above us in the space station. That is a model for us all. We have the energy of space, and we are confronted by a solar system that is essentially dead. What if the mission of humanity became, rather than plundering and pillaging this planet and grabbing all that we could get, that we could turn ourselves outward? We could redefine who we are in such a way that the mission of civilization, the mission of human beings, became expanding life and civilization to places that are now dead. The core belief set that drives Space Fund, the nonprofits, and many of my friends in this field is the idea that we have a purpose, that you have a purpose. And that purpose is, well, I'll put it this way. We're here to go there. Thanks.
Awesome. We'd like to open it up for questions. Rick, thank you very much for being here and presenting, taking the time to do so. So if anybody has questions, you can ask them a couple different ways. One is unmuting yourself. Bottom left-hand corner, make sure you're unmuted. You can ask via audio, or right-hand side, you can type it into text chat if you'd like to do so. So if any questions, feel free to jump in.
I have a question. So, you mentioned obviously you're trying to stay, there's too many of those launch companies. What are types of companies that are super important that you're looking into besides launch companies at this time?
Okay, and can you identify yourself? If you're going to ask a question, please.
I'm Jared.
Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jared. I'm just trying to make it a little bit more human here, if we don't mind. As I mentioned, those companies that are going to be, look at it this way, and I'm going to pick on Elon again here with SpaceX. If you have a transportation system that is going to allow hundreds or tens or thousands of people to be able to go into space, what would that mean? Into this new place where new products can be developed. What does that mean? Well, you're going to have the ability to do new kinds of research. So those are going to be companies you might want to look at, biotech companies. For example, here's one that's very interesting to me. This idea of growing human organs. If they try and grow lungs or human organs here on the Earth, they have to create a scaffolding for the cells to grow on, because normally in your body, your lungs are supported by your body. And growing them outside of the body, they just collapse because they don't have anything to hang on to or support them. The thing that happens in space, though, in zero G, they're just floating, so you could grow them as much as you want. The other ideas are, made in space is look at fiber optics. Fiber optics that are grown in space, the crystals that are grown in space, are X times purer than those grown on the Earth and are able to transmit far more signal, far more cleanly. So facilities like laboratories, real estate is going to become. Imagine if Elon and Jeff are able to put thousands of people in space, and all we've got is this one little station and maybe one or two small ones next to it. So the real estate is going to become a big deal. There's actually going to be a housing crisis in space if they're successful. All kinds of other activities. Think about, look, when there was the gold rush here in the old days here, it wasn't necessarily the gold miners that made the money. It was the people that sold them Levi's and alcohol and other services and things like that. Those are the people that made the money. So look around. Again, we're open. If you want to call us, even if you don't want to invest, we'd be happy to give you any advice we can. But there are going to be a lot of different activities going on as we begin to move out there. The tug services, propellant, repair services, all kinds of things like that. Training, things that are associated with keeping citizen astronauts, or what some people call tourists. I signed up the first person to buy a ticket, and I hate the word tourist. So, but things like that.
Did you say minimum check size for the second fund is 200K? Was that correct?
Yes. And who is this, please?
Sorry, this is Chris Reed.
Oh, Chris, yeah. The standard ticket size is 200K for the second fund. We're negotiable for as for some of the early people. We're going to put together an SPV for if you're accredited and you want to come in with a smaller amount. We're going to package an SPV, a special purpose vehicle, together for early investors. We're looking for an anchor, of course. We would love to get an anchor. 2 million plus would be fabulous. But we're not going to wait for that because we already have people. We were oversubscribed last week when we closed the fund, so we're already starting on that SPV.
This is Jared again. What do you think will cause space to be economical for people to really just go at? What will be the economic driver?
Like anything else, it's going to be volume that drives it. I mean, and you're giving me a chance to talk about a really important point. I tried to make this at the beginning, and I should have tied the two together. People like Jeff and Elon and myself are going into space because we believe. We're believers in that cause. And some people say, well, that's not a way to make money or a business or whatever. And yet, if you look at like America or Israel or Utah or many other countries or places, those were started by people that started with a belief, and then an economy grew around them. Jeff and Elon are not, in the early days at least, going into space to make money. They made their money to go into space. However, by going, they begin to create that ecosystem that all these other smaller companies can then grow out of. So a lot of the early activities are going to be those that serve or service either SpaceX, Blue Origin, which is Bezos's company, or the US government, which has the Artemis project to go back to the moon, those kinds of things. However, as I said, there are already a couple of startups that are viable and legit. They're going through our diligence process right now. That are looking at products that you or I could buy retail that originate in space. So, it is one of these sort of, but like anything that's creative, new and exciting or transformational, you have to go through a catch-22 moment. We're right in the middle of that, and I believe about to break out of it.
Okay, any other questions for Rick? Looking at the text chat. Any other questions before we jump in?
Okay. I think I scared everybody.
No, I appreciate you sharing it. Also, just kind of looking at, maybe not a question, like a comment as far as like Virgin Galactic and kind of following those types of companies. I think it's something I need to learn more about. To be honest, like this, I think you've inspired me to. It's been one of those things where, sometimes in deep tech, it's like you just kind of ignore it. Fortunately,
yeah,
so you don't need to ignore.
No, it's look, it is one of these things that is going to creep up on you, and then your kids, like space is going to be just like a normal thing for them, right? Just like what we're doing here today, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, was what? You're going to do what? You're going to have a meeting with a bunch of characters walking around on screen. It is coming. It is moving fast, and again, it isn't just rich boys and their toys. There really is an entire industry that's growing up of a lot of people. And I was just asked that question a minute ago about, well, what would you do? Really, every day, because we're a VC company, we're approached by companies where people have sat down and looked at all of this field and said, there's a little hole in there that nobody's doing. I'm going to go work on that. We do have people. Oh, and I should mention, one reason I'm actually here, and of course I left that one out, is all of our funds have a security token option. In fact, that was the reason I actually got invited originally. We are the first venture capital company in space to offer a security token option, and which of course then allows you liquidity early in the investment cycle rather than waiting for like the 10-year life of the fund or something. After a 1-year holding period, according to the SEC, you could go into a security token and go laterally on one of the exchanges that are out there.
Interesting. Yeah, thanks for bringing that point up.
Yeah, I always bury the lead, man.
Yeah, I will have to wait that 8 to 10 years for the liquidity event, right? I think that having that lateral movement. It's important.
Yeah. I mean, you decide you want to buy a Tesla or something, it's like, okay, I can sell some.
I think Block, did you have your hand up for a question?
Yeah, this might sound a little negative, and I'm not trying to be, but you mentioned something about the moon and, thawing the ice, for water and stuff like that. Do you foresee any, problems with getting the resources and stuff like that, like how we have here on Earth? Problems with some of our resources being used up. Could that in the future be a problem? Like maybe the moon is meant to keep that ice on it. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I appreciate that. And that's not negative at all. And I should have been clearer. The resources that are on the moon that we're talking about harvesting, for example, the water in the craters, it's really for use in space. We're not going to be bringing that stuff back to the Earth. It's really to be used out there as we begin to develop out there. Now, there's two ways to look at it. If you have some sort of interesting religious belief that the moon, which is, by the way, a dead rock that has no life on it whatsoever, should be somehow left completely pristine, or an asteroid or whatever, then I guess that's okay. I'm on team life, right? I believe in life, and I believe in the sacredness of our duty to take care of this planet. This planet has life on it. This is a precious bubble of life. I was literally in Greenpeace back in my college days, right? I'm a tree hugger. Okay, I'm in Texas. I'm a tree hugger with a gun, but I'm a tree hugger, right? So for me, it is really about the fact that the rest of the solar system is basically, as far as we know, dead. It's not only dead, it's deadly. It will try to kill you. And so if you adopt the idea that life is precious, if you believe that this Earth, the mother world, Gaia, is precious, then if you go the next step, which is the step I take and what I'm working on and what's going to be the core of the book I'm working on, the Space Manifesto, then it is not enough just to save this planet, which we absolutely have to do. But it is our human duty to expand life to places that are dead. I want to see trees on the moon. I want to see butterflies on Mars. I want to see children born in the solar system who are beginning to go out into the universe, hopefully to meet their peers coming the other way, by the way. And if we find life on any other worlds, I believe we should have what they used to call in Star Trek, the prime directive. If we find life in a location, we go around that location and protect it, because all life is precious. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Rick, thanks again. I put all, let's see, your Twitter link is in the chat, bottom right-hand corner. If you guys want to connect on Twitter with Rick, click that text bubble. Make sure you do that. Also left Rick your email, rick@spacefund.com, to get in contact. Was there any other way to get in contact with you?
Those, the Twitter and Space Fund, earthlightfoundation.org is the key nonprofit. The website's under construction, but you're welcome to go there. We do accept coin. And I just have a feeling there's going to be a lot of people looking for some tax write-offs by the end of this year. We had the halvening and everything's going up, and it's going to be a very exciting year. I'm invested in coin as well myself. So, but hey, look, I really want to thank you guys. Maybe I'll hopefully see you next year in person. And again, feel free to reach out with any questions. There are no, as the lady who just said that it's not a negative question to ask these. We have a lot of, just real quick, we have a lot of assessments we make on the future that are based on perhaps the way we've looked at the past and not recreating what's possible based on the learning of what we've gotten wrong before. We have the chance to do things in a new way. And that's why this all excites me. And that's also why, by the way, I believe the whole blockchain community is exciting. You're looking at a revolution. So are we.
Very cool, Rick. Appreciate it. Being here.
Good stuff.
Cheers.
All right. 2 p.m. EST. We have a panel, NFT panel with Mark Savage, Brandon West. Let's see, Ida from Ethermon, I believe, and then Brian from Block to Central will be moderating. 2 p.m. EST.
Welcome to a live demo of the Convergence Player
All right, everyone, we'll get started here in a couple minutes. We're waiting on two panelists, both on their way. So we'll have everybody coming up to the stage. I believe Brandon's coming up from Digitix. And Brian from Block to Central. Okay, and that is Mark. Okay, so that's Mark from Ador. Okay. Mark, can you hear me? Maybe maybe check your browser access to your microphone at the top. Maybe give your microphone access. That might work. Brandon, we'll do a quick mic test.
Test.
Awesome. All right, so if you guys can hear, let's go down the left-hand side and turn on videos, see if those work. All right. And Brian, can you hear me?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Perfect.
Nice.
Third time's a charm, so you know the deal by this point.
Yes, I do.
All right. Yeah. So Idon will be here within a couple, like 2 minutes. On the description for the panel, I have us down for a panel on NFTs. Was there a specific vertical within NFTs that was going to be the conversation? Just for expectation?
None that I had specifically set up. If anyone wants to go down any specific path on,
Okay.
as far as that goes, definitely feel free.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I kind of thought.
Yeah, I'd love to learn more about Digitix myself. So maybe some of the platforms you guys are using, some of your companies. So I know Mark just jumped out. I think he was getting his mic, so I think he's trying to refresh. So let's give us a couple minutes. I'm going to go ahead and get ahead of the curve here with social. So I went ahead and posted Block to Central, Twitter, and chat.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I went ahead and posted that for you.
Oh, thank you.
Brandon, what's the best Twitter account?
There's a Digitix.io. I can post it.
Okay. Yeah, let me check the video tab. Yeah, so Brandon will be on video. And let's do another mic check with Mark. I don't know, Mark, if we can try. bottom left-hand corner, just make sure that you click the microphone icon.
Hello. How's everyone doing out there?
Good. Is that Mark? Oh, sorry. I thought that was Mark.
Okay, you hear me?
Yes, perfect. Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Yeah, this is a cool setup, man.
It's probably a little different. A typical setup. All right, so we're missing Idon. Let me take this call real quick to get Idon here. One moment.
Oh.
Okay. So Idon is on a loading screen, so he's coming.
All right.
He will be here. So. Yeah, let's do a quick check real quick. Actually, for everyone, top right-hand corner, if you want to click your avatar, it may just be a letter, but click your circle avatar, top right-hand corner, and make sure your settings are done. So click on user settings. And if you have not put in your LinkedIn profile, that's probably one of the most important things to do. So go to your LinkedIn page, grab your link, and paste it into LinkedIn profile URL. Then people can connect with you on the attendee list or click your avatar and connect with you directly on LinkedIn. So that's the other thing I did want to mention, that you can go to the attendee list. I don't talk about this enough. Bottom right-hand corner, you click the person icon, and then you can connect with people there. So if you click on an attendee, their information will pop up. You don't have to chase them around and click their avatar. So definitely go through the attendee list at some point and just kind of check those if new attendees come in to connect with them. All right, and we are live on YouTube on the Silicon Nexus channel. So if you're watching on a live stream, thanks for hanging out with us. Throw the call to action out for hitting that like button. We don't say that enough. Make sure you hit the like button if you're on the Silicon Nexus YouTube live stream. Lets other people know about the stream. We appreciate that. We're going to give Idon a minute here. And actually, can Emma hear me on audio?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, sorry, Emma.
Oh,
I tried to check
anyone.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, it probably muffled it. I don't think she can hear. Okay. All right, so we're gonna start. We're gonna go ahead and start, and then we'll go from there. So give me 1 second here. And a quick change there. All right. All right, welcome in, everyone. Welcome in on YouTube. Thanks for being with us. Run for the Unicorns 2020, kind of midday on day 2 here. This is a panel on NFTs. Brian from Block Essential is the moderator. So, Brian, I'm going to pass it off to you. Excited to do this panel.
Yeah, for sure. I guess we'll just jump into whatever questions that we can currently ask. And I suppose I'll start with, for both you guys, I know at least for Digitex can answer the first half, and then both you guys can answer the other half. Just kind of start with your token standard and what you have set up for your tokens, as well as how that is associated with NFTs, and how both of you and your projects are associated around non-fungible tokens?
Sure. Yeah, so how I originally designed the ticketing platform was similar to the CryptoKitties, where you would buy tickets with Ethereum, and people could then get the tickets, have them in their wallets. They could use those tickets at events, get them scanned, so everyone knows that those tickets are real tickets, as the ERC-721s. And then I started thinking of different use cases, and then one of them popped up was using a token, so an ERC20 token. And the reason why I thought that was useful is to kind of filter out bad data. So with the platform, how it was originally built was that anyone could go in there and start creating events. And once they create events, they can create ticket tiers. And those ticket tiers dictate the different types of tickets that are associated with that. So you have the cost, you have the different levels, so the general admission, VIP, and then they can be custom NFT types, different metadata, and then also like the different costs for those tickets. And you can set the amount of tickets that get issued. So I introduced the ERC20 token in order to basically you stake those tokens in order to be able to create an event for that platform. And then of course there's the fee for using the platform. So creating an event, there's a small fee for calling the smart contract to create it, which is payable on Ethereum or that token. So I started finding different value and use cases for creating an ERC20 token that combines into that ecosystem, so that people could use it as a form of payment, they could use it as a form of fees, they could sell tickets for ERC20 tokens, and then it filters out bad data. So in order to create an event, you need, say, 10,000 tokens. And so that at least puts in anyone who actually is serious about creating an event can stake the tokens and lock them in and start to create events. And then also using advanced features like custom premium NFT tickets, like non-transferable tickets. So if you buy a ticket, you have to go to the event. Another one could be the way that you sell the tickets. So you can make them anti-scalp, which is the non-transferable tickets, or pro-scalp, where you can actually sell the tickets, but the original event owner can actually claim a portion of that secondhand market sale. So say if you buy a ticket for $100 and you're like, oh, I'm going to sell these tickets for $200 to make a profit, 10% of that profit goes back to the original event creator. So by staking additional ERC20 tokens, you unlock those features to create unique premium ticket tiers. So that's kind of essentially how I've introduced the ERC20 token system with the ERC-721 system. But there's a lot of other use cases with the ERC20 token system, but that's kind of how I'm working on those use cases and slowly adding more features to the platform over time.
All right, very nice. Thank you very much. And Mark?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep, hear you just fine.
All right, let me see. Cool. So yes, I am working on a Mark Savage, creator and innovator in the blockchain space, and I'm working on a platform titled Adore. Right now, a lot of people see me as the face of it, but eventually I want it to be a community-driven platform. Right now, with the thought in mind for creatives and artists. So artists, musicians, influencers, anyone that wants to get into the virtual space or that's already in the virtual space can come to a door and start minting, creating virtual assets. And you can use these, we'll help you on the team to gamify these assets, definitely host auctions, and just really set up a e-shop, online shop for your virtual items, and get them out there to your audience. So right now we haven't done a soft launch yet because Ethereum is just a little too congested for us. And my team, we're finding that Wax is definitely an amazing solution for us just because of the infrastructure. So we're in the midst of integrating that for our back end, so we can have a successful soft launch. And from there, we'll just have fun, allow people to collect, and really what we looked or what we aim to do is bring the traditional world into the virtual space. So we're contacting traditional artists, painters, traditional musicians, saying you can create musical cards, videographers, photographers, influencers, just showing them what they can do and how they can bring their communities into the space and kind of growth hack, the both sides. So a door is a doorway, from the traditional to the virtual.
All right, very nice. Thank you very much for that. Brandon, I know Mark over here was just mentioning Wax as far as some sort of alternative to Ethereum for this congestion and scalability. And I know you were talking about using ERC20 tokens as the standard for your tickets. Have you been noticing any major issues with trying to sell the tickets and fees associated with it? And if so, is there any sort of solution you guys have been trying to work on for avoiding that, so that way more tickets can be sold to the masses?
Yeah, absolutely. So for this event, we used the ticketing system for this event. We sold, I think it was about 35 tickets. But yeah, the gas fees are insane. So people who did buy the tickets with the NFTs, I thank you for using the system. Spending your droids for buying those NFT tickets. So it's pretty cool to see. I think it was about 2 weeks ago, the tickets were $10 in gas fees. And then the week after that, it was about $20 in gas fees. And then I checked the other day and it was $125 in gas fees alone, not to mention the price of the ticket, which is insane. So it's definitely a massive issue. And I've looked at a couple different blockchains, from Loom to Matic to a couple different protocols, Near, XDAI. So I'm definitely looking at trying to migrate. And I think there's a couple different kind of issues that we're trying to solve. I mean, one of them is we originally designed this for physical events. So you'd actually have your physical QR code ticket that you would then scan physically in a real event. But, with coronavirus, it's been an interesting pivot. So we've been focusing more on virtual conferences and virtual events. A lot of virtual conferencing software, they don't have a way of authenticating users. So that's what we're working on building those partnerships with different virtual conferencing software to provide that as a solution. But of course, we have to solve a lot of the key issues like the scalability, the price fees, trying to introduce the platform in a way that you don't even know that you're using Ethereum. And those are some of the solutions, or those are some of the key issues that we're focused on. We did solve a few of them. One of them was the price issue and fees. So setting the ticket and the cost of Ethereum, with the volatility of Ethereum. Say one ticket was one Ethereum, well, it's $200 this week, $300 the next week, $400 the next week. So we actually integrated with Chainlink to use the price referencing oracle to dynamically adjust the price so that it's $100 is $100 worth of Ethereum. Another one is the wallets and managing. So actually created a server that also does custody of the tickets, but emails the ticket IDs out so they can still be utilized. And then also integrating fiat, so like integrating Stripe to pay for these tickets and then have them held in custody, email the QR code, then you can scan that QR code at the event. But yeah, there's a lot of issues, in the ecosystem as a whole, and we're just focusing on understanding them and then trying to build some solutions to them.
Yes, the this blockchain road has definitely had a lot of bumpy patches, but the technology is moving quite fast. And as far as that goes, I know that as far as the masses trying to get into crypto, they also have some struggles as far as getting a wallet set up and then trying to connect to Coinbase or whatever method they use to get crypto, and then trying to figure out what to do with these tokens once they get into their wallet. And then, especially with all the Ethereum issues going on right now with the gas fees, a lot of people are looking at other alternatives such as Hive and Tron, EOS, etc., other blockchains for their titles, which can get very overwhelming if someone has to, get 5-6 different types of wallets and keep track of all their different tokens and assets through them all. How are you guys planning to kind of mainstream this, mainline it to allow more easy access to these tokens for consumers that don't want to have to spend like a half hour to an hour just to set up something to be able to accept these?
One of the ways I've looked at solving it was using a wallet called Toros. Toros is a pretty interesting wallet where you can authenticate with like Google Chrome, or I think even with like Facebook and Twitter and GitHub. You can authenticate with there, and they actually generate a key in the back end for you, and then creating a server that basically handles some of the requests so that it can actually send that NFT ticket that you purchased directly to that wallet. And then signing in with Google, having your ticket in your Google account, essentially, and then being able to still log in and attend the event so that they're not actually even paying any gas fees. The servers are, and it's kind of like a gas station type of thing. So that the user doesn't even know that they're using the blockchain. And that's kind of what we're working on achieving. And we built a couple proof of concepts that have been working, but of course, someone's got to pay the gas fees, and that, the server right now would be us. So we obviously don't want to do that, because then we're paying out of pocket for all the gas fees. So that's why we're looking at different layer 2 solutions, or having another way of like doing it with roll-ups or ZK roll-ups.
Yeah, sorry. If I could jump in real quick. I don't Lou with Ethermon is here. I don't. Can you hear?
Yes. Hi.
Hi. All right. Feel free to introduce yourself. And then
yeah.
As well. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Thanks. Sorry for being late. I had a little issue with my browser and everything. This is Aiden. So I am the founder of Ethermon. The Ethermon was originally branded as Ethermon. It was, I guess, one of the earlier blockchain game and probably the first battle game. It launched pre ERC 721, so it launched about the same time as CryptoKitties. So we had obviously had our struggles in terms of catching up with the ERC 721 standard when making it compatible to it. And so these days, since the classic game, in the past year or so, we've been really focused on integrating ourselves with the Decentraland. So we're part of the developers program, and essentially rolling out new contents over there, bringing everything to 3D. One of the key things that we really focus on is making the same asset compatible across all platforms. So you can use it on a traditional classic website game. You can use the same NFT on the Decentraland. So now, without going into too much detail, I guess I can also talk a little bit about the topic that we're just talking about. So one of the key things these days is about onboarding user. With the gas very high, what do you do? So we are looking at all kinds of various different solutions. One of the ones, because we're kind of binded to Ether, just because we were originally created it. So the main ones we're looking at is a plasma chain related solution. One particular one is a Matic Network. We're very closely working with them because we wanted to still allow users to take our existing asset, move it to a sidechain, and be able to move it back with having Ethereum being the main proof of stake. Sorry, not proof of stake. Ethereum being the main chain, either proof of stake or proof of work. Because the only worry we had about using an alternate chain entirely off by itself is, what if that chain doesn't have, long-term adoption? But then I guess as long as the developer continue to explore all the solutions, you can always create all kinds of interchain related assets. So one of our focus right now is then, obviously looking at, okay, what does it mean really when you have the same asset on two different chains? Should it be cross compatible? Or because not only do you have the asset, you also have storage variable behind it too. So do you now synchronize the storage across chain? So there could be all kinds of various different challenges. But now, because of gas being very high these days, and at the same time we want to target the mass market, we are also creating more traditional free-to-play. So we're moving a little bit of very decentralized, 100% decentralized, to a little bit of centralized. So which means allowing some user to play entirely just by having email. You create a temporarily centralized user account for them. They still have the NFT, but they are off-chain NFT. But later on, they can then mint it to these new locations. So anyways, that's a quick intro and have my 2 cents on the topic.
Yes, thank you very much. And that was very informational. Mark, I don't know if you have anything else to add on your project and how you plan on combating some of those issues as it gets to the soft launch.
Yeah, so I'm agnostic at heart. For me, and with my team, the best tech wins. So, I've been working a little side by side with the Casper Labs team, looking at Cosmos, looking at Algorand, looking at HBAR or Hedera Hashgraph, and it's some incredible teams and platforms out there. So the reason we chose to go with Wax, they kind of built the things we're looking for, and we do want to incorporate, Tron, VeChain, IOST. There's some great things out there, and we want to really have the mindset of it's like a plug and play. You can come just about with any wallet or sign up with an email, and either we'll pre-mint, or if you want to mint to a certain chain, you can. So really for us, it's really all the back end, just getting that ready so it can be a seamless experience. And so it's taking us a little longer, just to kind of really create a plan, because we want the first experience to be the best, or not even the best, just people like it. Say, okay, I can see where this is amazing. I see where it needs a little fixing, but they love it. I want my friends, my brothers, my sisters to be able to come on, go buy an NFT, and not have too much of a learning curve. So we have that in mind, and so I'm excited for our next kind of date. We're looking for, I think, an October date. I don't want to put a hard date out there, but we're behind the scenes just building away. I do have a little actually a form you can fill out if you want to get updates for the alpha launch, maybe do some giveaways and all of that.
Yeah, that'd be awesome if you could post that in the chat. I don't know if that's already in there somewhere, but I know I'd definitely love to check that out. And another question before we move on for the platform is, I'm curious specifically the type of platform you intend on using for these creators to be able to, turn their content, their creations into NFTs, and kind of like both what types of NFTs they'll be able to make, and then how they'll be able to make NFTs out of them, turn these, like I said, creations into digital assets, and kind of where they'll be sold and the type of marketplace you're looking at for these people to make some sort of profit off of their, off of their talents.
Yeah, I kind of got a little to share that. So, our first run would be to kind of integrate with OpenSea, having our marketplace, but allowing users to, definitely use OpenSea. And then, like Adam said about Decentraland, whatever chain or platform we build on, we want that to be able to encompass, the community as well. So right now with Wax, they have Myth Market, they have Atomic Hub, they have some great teams and platforms already. So we'll have our own marketplace as well as all the other marketplaces already on that chain. It's kind of, I don't know if you guys know about Nifty Gateway, but they have their own website. You log in with your email. They have their auctions with the artwork or the pieces, but you can also send it off of their site to your wallet, and you can sell it in OpenSea, or you can do peer-to-peer. Say, hey, contact somebody through the wallet, or just Telegram. say, I like your piece in your wallet. People can kind of see what you have now and either place a bid or trade. And Silicon Nexus I know they're working on something that's incredible where, you can look at each other's wallets, trade swaps, and have droids. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, thank you. That definitely helps a lot. To kind of change things up, Lou, I wanted to ask you, since I know you mentioned working directly with Decentraland, and I know that has been a project quite a few years in the making now, as far as, a huge digital open world where you can have plots of land that you own and you can create, these digital assets that you own on this virtual plane. I want to know what your thoughts are on, the digital assets that people can own in these virtual worlds, and where you think that this is evolving and headed as far as the things that people can own and do, with digital items in something like, a world like Decentraland.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for teeing up. So I think one of the very interesting concept is thinking about originally we're content creators, so we create all these items. Then all of a sudden you have landowners. So the question then is, a lot of these landowners, they actually are not content creators themselves. So all of a sudden you have created this additional layer of vacancies. So essentially what we've been working on is we partner with this other project called MetaZone. All of our creation within Decentraland, most of it are in sort of like, in a way, think of the vending machine model. We are creating a vending machine. We sell the vending machine to these landowners who then can deploy on their land. So now you all of a sudden have multiple layers. So not only as a landowner, you have this NFT, which represents your land. You're also buying a vending machine, which is also an NFT. You put a vending machine on your land. Now, what that vending machine can do then is you can still start selling pop. So which means you can sell the pop to general people coming in, and they can buy stuff. And the landowner can directly profit from that through this platform. But in reality, in our particular specific instance, instead of taking that vending machine model, is we sell for Ethermon. Ethermon now roams around Decentraland as pets. Traditionally, you just see them as 2Ds website, and you fight with them. Now you're taking them, they become your pet inside Decentraland. So if you have one, it actually walks around beside you at the locations where we have these deployed. But now eventually, if Decentraland supports pets, perhaps, it can follow you everywhere within Decentraland. So now what we do sell then is, because you have pets, you have to now kind of feed them. You have to kind of give them food or grow them, train them, etc. So we sell these things called garden netta, where you can plant fruits. You can take seeds and you can plant fruits. And once it's planted, you can then feed it to your Ethermon. Now, the interesting part of it now is the whole planting. The garden itself, there's only 100 gardens. So any landowner can buy the garden, and then they can deploy it onto their land. So it's essentially a snippet of code, which is an NFT, and it gets deployed on their land. And then they can take that garden and sell vegetables, so that any user, even not themselves, can come and plant seeds, grow food, and feed it to Ethermon. So all of a sudden, it's very interesting because you're not just collecting one thing. You're buying a kind of like a vending machine there, and then you can sell it and commoditize it. So I think this entire layer of multi-layer becomes very, very interesting. That's kind of the main thing we were working on right now. So we have the garden meta. We will have the egg meta, which means instead of people buying Ethermon on our platform, they can buy it from this egg nest. So they can go to any user which owns the egg nest and go buy Ethermon eggs. So in a way, you can think about it as we're franchising our ecosystem, so that in a way it's kind of like franchising.
I think that's really cool that you guys have gone down that path of having your virtual pet kind of thing in your environment. I actually thought of that idea like 2 years ago, and I was given that idea to the CryptoKitties team. I'm like, you guys got to do this. This is going to be super cool to not just have your CryptoKitty NFT, but then you can play it, use it, grow it, and then battle it. But then, so that's so cool that you guys are going down that path, and that use case is going to be realized. So that's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, I definitely agree, and thank you very much for that very helpful explanation. I know I've been in Decentraland quite a handful of times since its release, and I haven't seen the Ethermons yet, but it's been a little while since I hopped in, so I'm going to have to take my way back over there. But yeah, lots of amazing stuff, lots of great creations I've seen from people coming from over there, so I'm excited to see how that's going to continue to evolve. Kind of back over to Brandon, I wanted to ask, because I know there's already online platforms for selling tickets for events, things like Eventbrite and whatnot, and I just wanted to know if you could explain a little bit. I know you did somewhat earlier on the foundation of the platform, but some of the key differences between what buying a digital NFT ticket form as opposed to buying something like a ticket off of Eventbrite or someplace that they can just email you, what I'm saying.
Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of like a decentralized Eventbrite, where people can go in and create their own events, and then they can kind of create their own tickets, put up the cost of what those tickets cost. So general admission, VIP, sponsorship tickets, set those prices, and issue those tickets so that as soon as those ticket tiers go live, anyone can start buying tickets. And so there's no barrier between some corporation kind of saying, hey, this event shut down type of thing. So it's people can buy tickets to that event. There's no middleman, but the contracts are essentially the middleman, but it's code. So you're trusting the code, which is a different concept. And so you're lowering the fees, but some of the primary use cases that I was working on, trying to help solve, is the scalping and the scamming in the industry. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry of scamming tickets. People, you're getting Photoshop, creating these tickets like Super Bowl tickets, and they're getting extremely realistic, where there's billions of dollars every single year spent on fake tickets, and people don't realize it until they've already bought it and they've tried to go into the event, and then they scan it and this isn't a real ticket, sorry. And then not only did you just fly to this state or fly to this country, but your ticket's invalid and you can't go. And then the other aspect is fair ticket distribution. So with TicketStub and Ticketmaster, they've colluded essentially, and so there's been many times where people would be sitting there on standby for the tickets to go live to some concert, say like a Justin Timberlake concert, and they're waiting there for like an $80 ticket for a good seat. And then as soon as they go live, they're all sold. And then they end up on StubHub for like 2 times the price, which is like, what the hell's going on here? So not only are the event, creators getting screwed from that, but the fans are being screwed because now they're paying a higher price and they're forced to pay the higher price. And the event creator can't do really nothing about that. So that's kind of trying to disrupt those types of markets, and then adding on the additional layers of what NFTs can be, where you could literally have one ticket in a ticket tier, and it could be a very unique art painting. So it actually can be converted into different art. It can be converted into digital game items like skins. So like if you imagine like you're attending an NBA virtual conference, and your ticket allows you to go into the event. And not only that, it turns into like a Michael Jordan jersey or something, or some type of really cool hat or something of that nature, like the hats that we have here. So that was something that I was actually trying to work with GamerJob to actually get into the system and connect with them. And maybe at some point in the future that something like that can be established. But that was always in the roadmap of like connecting with these virtual conferences. And now that Corona has kind of come up, I've been spending a lot more time. And then also I'm going to be definitely looking harder into Decentraland to start to build use cases of attending events by using those tickets as well. And then having those converted into actual digital items and et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of opportunities that not just like as a typical, as like compared to like Eventbrite where you're buying the ticket and all that stuff. But this opens it up to a lot more transparency, a lot more fair of the system, and trust the system. So if you're buying that ticket, that ticket's associated to that conference, and you're getting what you're paying for, and you're going to be able to own that ticket for a lifetime and use that ticket. And then of course there's other potential use cases down the road where, so like whoever bought a Run for Unicorns 2020 ticket, maybe 2021, they get a discount or they get some additional item that they had that ticket now represents. So that ticket stays in your wallet. You own that ticket. And so that's kind of some cool stuff that you could do there, especially with like, cross-pollinating these different smart contracts. Like imagine your Ethermon becomes a ticket, or your CryptoKitties is also a ticket. So it's like those types of use cases. So you're kind of getting like some synergistic value to purchasing those NFTs when, you're getting some value there, which is pretty cool.
Yes, I definitely agree, and thank you very much for that explanation. One of the last things I want to ask is, I know that, the NFT marketplace, you have both the people that want to buy these NFTs for, various purposes, using them in game or collecting, selling, whatever. But then you also have those that want to mint NFTs to, create some sort of digital asset for themselves, whether to hold on to or to give out to friends or maybe even to sell to make some profit. And I know that all three guys, Ador, as far as content creation, making NFTs that way, and Digitex, like creating the NFTs for events, selling them out, as well as, creating whatever, vending machine or whatever we're saying, like amusement park or a planetarium in a digital world to sell tickets to or whatever. Could you guys go through a little bit of the process of setting up and minting and selling any sort of NFTs or digital assets on your platform? Lou, if we could start with you, if you.
Yeah, sure. Definitely. So it's interesting because, I guess we've been in the NFT space for a little while, and we actually have multiple different stacks, multiple different ways to do it, because we really have thought through how it should be done. But most fundamentally, I'll start with Ethermon Classic. So what it does, it's fully decentralized. It's open on a smart contract. So when you pay Ether or our token, EMONT, you will be able to mint the NFT by the contract. So that's the directly on chain. And what we do in our backend databases, we only update our database when it happens on chain. So which means we take users interaction on chain, and then we take a copy of that from Etherscan to say, okay, that's verified. Then you see the results on the website. Now, the biggest flaw with that system is you need to wait for everything to get verified before you see it on a website. Now, then you will also see other games does it a little bit differently, which is people pay, and then they show the asset right away on the website. So the user get instant feedback, and then they do the minting in the backend and send it to the user. So I think you can do it that way as well. And so I guess we sort of do look at kind of use both of them essentially, which is user can buy directly through the on-chain. Now, if gas is too high, then what we do is we're looking at multiple different off-chain channel. For example, even if you onboard a credit card, so if you buy using credit card on a website, this is currently not live, but we're working on if you use a credit card payment, then we process it. And what we do is we mint the NFT in the backend. And once the processing of the credit card is confirmed, payment received, then we use the backend to send it to them. So instead of a minting on chain, we're doing the transfer off chain. The advantage is obviously you have a better control of gases as well. So when gas is high, you can kind of delay it a little bit and to send it out a little bit later. But you do also have to. The other advantage is you can mint ahead of time. So instead of user having to pay gas at a time, you can mint orders ahead of time, and all you're doing a transfer at a later stage. So I just touch on those two. Then obviously the third one, which is quite popular, we do use the OpenSea storefront since they have a way that anyone can go there and mint anything that they like. So that's also very nice for anyone who doesn't want to touch code.
All right, thank you very much. That was definitely very helpful information for anybody trying to get into Decentraland and may or may not already have some land, but just trying to create some sort of content for the world. So thank you very much. Brandon, if you want to go next.
Yeah. So essentially it's an NFT generator. So the process flow and how it works is, one is you first, as an event organizer, you establish a create event function. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Just
Oh, okay. My screen went blank a little bit. So yeah, the first step is that the event organizer wants to create an event. That then puts that into the contract saying that there's an event there into the struct of the data. And then at that point, they can go into their event admin panel and they can start to kind of carve out what type of event tickets that they want to offer. So they could have 100 different ticket tiers. They could have basically however many tickets you want to create, you can create as many ticket tiers as you want. So, you can keep it to 3 or general admission, VIP sponsorship. You can have, I think last year we did like 17 different tickets for the Run for Unicorns, where we had Bourbon with the Billionaires, we had the Shark Tank tickets, we had Trifecta, Superfecta, and each of those were different types of access levels where you had had access to the first day, you had access to the whole Bourbon Trail, you had access to the whole entire event, you had access to part of the event, and so in that process, the user, the event organizer, goes to the event panel, creates a ticket tier, sets the price of that ticket tier, say it's a VIP ticket, sets the price in either Ethereum or a custom ERC20 token or dollar value, and then uploads the NFT design for that ticket tier suite of tickets. So each of those ticket tiers, each ticket's a unique NFT ERC 721, but each of them have the same ticket tier like NFT design to it. So you can have 100 of those. So like just for this event, you can go on OpenSea Digitix, you can see all of the spinning logos, which are also tickets on the actual system. So once that tier gets created, people can then start buying those tickets. And as soon as they purchase the ticket, so if I set the price as 1 Ethereum for 1 ticket, the user can go in there and browse events, and they can see, oh yeah, I want to go to this event. They click on that event, and they can see the different ticket tiers for what kind of tickets you can buy, and then you can basically kind of scroll down, click on which ticket tier you want to buy, how many tickets you want to purchase, and then go through the processing of paying for that transaction. So as soon as you pay like 1 Ethereum, which would be the price for the VIP ticket, it then mints the NFT there and sends it to your wallet. And that all happens in one transaction, so that you now own that ticket. And the ticket then goes in your ticket wallet. You go there, and then you'll be able to see that design, the NFT design of what it is, a 3D spinning kind of artwork thing. But then also by clicking on that, you get a QR code, which is a custom private key that allows you to use that on the day of the event, where you then delegate your event scanners to scan those tickets. And the tickets will say, hey, yeah, this is a valid ticket. Do you want to use this ticket? Yes. And then once it gets used, it's been used. The status basically turns from used to or not used to used. So if you ever try to sell it, people can say, oh, this ticket's already used. And then you can't transfer it and all that stuff. So that's how we architected it essentially, is that a ticket's only minted when one is purchased. And the price can be set to 0. So someone could just go in there and buy a ticket, and there's other parameters that can be set where only one wallet can buy 1 ticket. So that's kind of how the system works for how we were designing it.
All right. Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much. I'm sure that helps a lot of people that are trying to set up an event with you guys. And thank you very much for that. Mark, I don't know if you have anything to add as far as your project and plans for the actual minting of the NFTs once the platform comes out.
Yeah, I was trying to share my screen. Let's see if I can do it.
Yeah, the bottom left-hand corner. There you go.
Yep, I see it now.
Yeah, so basically, as myself as a mentor and creator, what I see in the space, people either they want to mint or want to learn how to mint. And I have just a few examples up here of how to create items and templates. So on Adore, what's going to happen is we definitely want to have it open, but also verify and curate some of the experiences. So if there's an artist, either a well-known artist or a traditional artist that already has a community, we can, kind of hold their hand and say, hey, here's how you've meant various virtual items. You can do 2D, you can do 3D, you can add music. We kind of walk them through a little guideline of how to create virtual items and let them, use their imagination. I say, okay, what if I can do this? Can I do that? And give them. So at first, we'll have the smart contract. On the technical side, basically whitelist their account so they can come in and mint. Now there'll be some guidelines, even though it's an open platform, as to what can be shown, and just to make sure it's a marketplace that everyone feels safe and respected in. That being said, some people will be able to come in and just mint whatever they like, and to a certain point, we can either red flag or whitelist or do what we can to just keep the marketplace at a respectable level. Kind of imagine Amazon or eBay. Amazon, yes, anyone can post things for sale, but it's specific things. eBay, you get a little bit more freedom, but not as much as just posting whatever you can. So we definitely want to curate the experience and allow at first specific individuals that whitelist access. They can come in. Some may know that, okay, I have my assets. I know how to create. I want to mint. We give them permission to mint. Later down the line, we may get to a place where each artist or creator has their own smart contract, and they can just come in, log in, and mint on their specific smart contract. And with that being said, they can take that smart contract to any platform on any chain, either with our help or they find a developer. So it does get a little technical fast. We aim to make it as easy as possible, by just setting up an account. And currently, you will have to do either a MetaMask or a Wax Cloud wallet to mint to those chains. In the future, we may, provide the service where just give us the item or give us the link or the asset, and we'll mint it for you, and have that advanced experience as well. So I always like, kind of gamifying. I like gamifying things. So these coins, they're going to be, I'm going to do like the basic coins, the legendary, the epic, and the mythic. So I'm going to have these coins kind of run the marketing aspect of Adore, as long as some stickers. So you got to collect stickers, burn the stickers to get these coins. And actually, Alex, a guy in Telegram, he's an incredible designer. He created these coins, and basically by gamifying and allowing the user to have fun and feel good, they're going to want to come back and tell friends and just have more fun. So we're going to have cards, art, music, a bunch of things to just make it all around experience, and hopefully we can tie this into a Decentraland, Crypto Voxels, Ethereum, or Digitix. Hey, boo.
Yes, thank you very much. That was very helpful, and very excited to see how that is going to be once the soft launch finally commences. As far as questions go, officially, that is the end of all the ones that I have set up. I know we have one over here in the comments from Chris. It seems to be for Lou, wanting to just know if you have any information about access to certain areas of virtual events. Oh, maybe it's for Michael, based on permission level of the NFT. Yeah, if you wanted to clarify that, mayhaps.
For sure. Like, for example, in this environment, kind of the way I would envision it is, I purchase an NFT ticket. Let's say it has 3 permissions, like bronze, silver, and gold. The bronze level only gets into 2 out of the 5 areas. Silver gets into 4 out of 5, and then gold gets into 5 out of 5. And that's kind of how my brain wraps around it. And kind of giving it, because there was another panel earlier, the Decentraland panel, they were talking about, I forgot the person's name. I forgot who they're, Russ Albrecht, about how, they had different levels of permissions.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking at doing with Decentraland is, being able to get access to a venue or level based upon your ticket tier.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly right. So, in their use case, I think you had to buy X amount of items or tokens or that he was saying. So if you had 2, you could go to the second level. You had 3, you go to the third level. Essentially, it would be like you buy one ticket, and that would get you access to those specific access levels.
So maybe,
yeah.
Okay, so maybe I'm sorry, I'm just kind of talking through it myself. Like, so maybe it's $25 for the bronze, $50 for the silver, and $100 for the gold, and then
exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. And then of course, I'd love to, especially in Decentraland, get it to become a wearable, where you're wearing like a wristband is level 1, a shirt is level 2, a jacket and a hat is like level 3, type of thing. And those can all be NFTs that can be tradable and stuff. But it can be used on chain also. So like if it is used, you've used it, so you can't go in the event. You can only go in the event when you use the ticket.
Mm-hmm. And then again, just on the general use case is like, not only is it the ticket into the event, but it's you get to collect that NFT like you all said. I mean, I think all three of you all pointed that out. In some of your statements. So I found that interesting.
Yeah, and there could be like some loyalty there too, in terms of, okay, you bought this ticket for this event last week, we'll honor it for the next week, and maybe the next week after that. Or you bought level 1 ticket a long time ago, you can airdrop certain items to that wallet as well, and kind of give loyalty points to that person, to the ticket holder. So I think like even for this event, I think there was some mentioning of chibis that were getting distributed to NFT ticket buyers. So whoever bought a ticket for this event, I think that may have been announced. I'm not sure if that has been announced officially, but and I'm not sure what the status of that is. I don't think they're responsible for. I think Chibis is the one that's owning that. But that's like one use case. So like if someone buys a ticket to this event, like just like if you go to some type of conference where they try to hand out stuff, you can kind of hand out things to those ticket holders as like benefits. That you go to an event and they give you a water bottle or a T-shirt or type of thing like that, you can give an NFT T-shirt to those holders to incentivize them to do more access. And you have access to all those addresses because it's Ethereum public chain.
Now, does Digitex work more than just the ticket itself? Like if we wanted to make this drink, if I was putting on an event and I wanted to make this drink an NFT, then okay.
Yep, that's exactly right. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to do earlier on to actually try to get like that drink to be the ticket or the hat to be a ticket. Actually, the one thing I really wanted to do was to get an actual unicorn that you could ride, which we could like ride around in a unicorn on this in this environment, which was like that's a stretch, but.
Well, no. Let's take a step further, and I don't want to probably like this, but have your Ethermon follow you.
Exactly.
You bring your NFT with you, right? I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the panel? I don't want to hijack the Q&A.
Yeah, no, I don't see anything else in the chat, and it is 2:01. So unless anyone else has anything else that they want to quickly write in, or I don't know if they can unmute themselves now, but speak up or whatever, then I think that's it.
I did post all of the social assets. Actually, real quick, for the audio side of it, for like a repurposed podcast, where's the best place to connect with everybody? If we want to start with Brandon.
You can connect on Twitter. The link is down there, and then you can go to digitix.io. You can subscribe. And then I'm also on LinkedIn if you want to connect with me directly.
Just Ivan at ethermon.io. But if you just go over to ethermon.io on the front page, is the link to all of our Discord. You can actually see what members there. We're pretty much there like all the time. So Discord is the best method to reach the Ethermon team and community. Thank you.
Yeah, for me, you can contact me on Twitter, either on adore.org at ADORORG, adore.org Twitter page, or my Twitter page at Phenomenal Mark. I'm on LinkedIn, Mark Savage, Telegram, Mark Savage. So any social link, you can drop a line, comment, message, response, and we can connect.
Yeah, any links you guys would like to drop in the chat, feel free to do so. I've tried to put as much as I can in there for everybody to connect. And then on all the repurposed content, we'll have the links in the descriptions and the show notes as well, so everybody gets connected.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, really awesome panel. Thank y'all very much.
Oh, we'll have those private keys.
Yeah, feel free. Yeah, feel free to.
How does some of the avatar get like a drink or something on their hand? Is it random or?
Yeah, good question. So there's NPCs in 2 of the rooms. So this room, there's 2 on each side for the bartender. Just left.
Oh, you go pick it up. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
It's actually.
That's true. That is true. You can. The bartender will throw you the drink from anywhere, which is neat. Yeah, I'd like to get your take on the environment.
Yeah, no, it's great. Actually, I didn't expect this to be 3D. I mean, I saw pictures of it. I was like, is this like, am I walking to the Decentraland or another 3D platform? But I didn't know, like, does Jab typically have this 3D environment? Or I saw it's also based out of Unity. So I'm just trying to figure it out, because you know how Sony in Space is based out of Unity. I was like, is this Sony in Space? Or is this Decentraland?
It's based off of Unity. So it's got that same feel.
Yeah,
because I'm into Decentraland myself. I'm actually as much as I can. We had DCL Blogger here earlier, and we had a good panel earlier this morning talking about Decentraland, and then a couple other projects kind of inside the space. Like Decentral Games was there as well, and just talking about how they're integrating with Decentraland. But yeah, the feel on this platform, all the events are 3D events, just like this. The interesting fact is like that so the Gamer Drive team was like a Discord / Reddit gamer community. That's how it started, like just a 2D Discord feel like platform, and then they pivoted in December 2019.
And did they use a similar tech as Sony in Space, or?
I'm not a dev, but I mean, both Unity. I mean, I think Somnium is more intuitive from this.
Yeah.
I mean, I would guess.
Yeah. Okay. No, I'm just wondering, like, I was kind of a little surprised. I thought if it was going to be a 3D conference, we would have done it, how DCL have that conference location, and then also, I guess, you could collect on a CryptoVox or any of the platforms. But no, thank you. I learned something new.
Yeah, that's actually a good point you make, because it's, the crypto space has its like event niche. So with DCL and with CryptoVoxels and kind of creating the events like within those ecosystems, like, the Gamer Job team is more non-crypto.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the wall between the two. But it's interesting because it's actually going in reverse. Like, I think DCL starts crypto and then goes mainstream. Like, Gamer Job is is kind of non-crypto to start. And kind of like these basic events, like investor conferences, job fairs, like they did a recruitment event with the Marines in the Army. And
really? Seriously?
Like they were walking around with their Marine blues and things like that, and then like they would have students come in and recruit them at their event. So it's more like mainstream events, not associated with crypto to start. Right, but we've already had people. But in this event, it's interesting because it's like, well, hey, I just want to click the avatar and tip them Ether,
yeah,
things like that. So they're, the team's open to that too. So it's kind of a dichotomy of both worlds.
Oh, that's very true. Yeah. This entire tipping thing in the at least in 3D makes it much different than just in the chat. So,
and I want my Ethermon to follow me around.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Yeah, I own something. I think I own Egypt and Ethereum, and a couple. I gotta go check my account out.
Yeah. So, yeah. Short answer is the team's looking at like integrating those things, as time goes on, and because the founder is a Bitcoiner himself. So
I see.
That works. So yeah. Joe's definitely up for that. So, but
very cool.
And then you get your hat in the welcome zone. There's another little desk. Can you click to grab a hat there? And again, sorry.
So you need to get out back to the welcome zone. What's all this little like general startup DeFi introduction speaker thing?
They're little they're chat tables.
Okay.
So when you walk into one of the table, that's a new audio channel.
Okay. I see. So you don't have the private chat. You just can talk to one specific people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So it's a different feel for different events. There's a monthly event. Founder Institute does one out of the Chicago branch of Founder Institute, and they bring like startups and accelerators together to do things. So like there's like one is like raising capital, one's like finding a co-founder and things like that. So.
These stuff that you pick up, does it just last in the event, or does it actually ties to your account? Like the hat and stuff like that, or just pretty much for the event?
That's a great question, just for the event. But
I guess
the team's playing.
They gotta make it NFTs.
That's why all these conversations are so great, because all coming together. But yeah, ideally, I mean, in my own mind, I see it as I own this hat, right? Like
exactly. Yeah.
I own this drink.
And then you could go to different conferences. Where'd you get that? I attended Founders event.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Well, I mean,
or a Marine. I attended the Marine thing, and they tried to recruit me over there.
Exactly.
All I have to say is,
needless to say, it's exciting.
Silicon Nexus Gamer Jive partnership is all I have to say.
Yeah. Awesome.
I would like that.
The first event on here was in April, and the story, if anybody was here last night, the story was so Daniel told this story. He's a COO, and so like 50 people were supposed to show up for the Founder Night Out Founder Institute, and then 150 showed up and they crashed. People were flying through the walls, and like there was like panels missing and everything else. So,
is it a kind of like a capacity limit for like that you guys have seen, or what's like the biggest you guys have seen? I mean, it seems pretty smooth so far, at least for me.
As of now, each instance caps at 40, which obviously is pretty typical on a platform. So each 4 it was 25, and then they've pushed it to 40 now.
And for you guys to host a platform, did you guys have to like make this 3D model, or this is kind of standard? You just have to slap in some background images.
They've built. I mean, they built it out from the ground up, from what I understand.
Yeah.
Not sure exactly. But then once it was built, like this was the same event space that they did a Career Fest.
I see. Cool.
So then they kind of plugged and played some things. But
just change some pictures. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now some of the 3D models were by hand or by scratch. But like the bare bones, and then it just kind of depends on how many booths and things like that.
Yeah.
Overall.
Yeah, definitely. No. I mean, if you guys are tied to the founder, we should definitely have a chat with them, right? Because I mean, I'm pretty sure most games have because of metadata, right? As long as you have the user's Ether address, which is easy to get, then you should be able to connect to all of the assets because it's available through developers APIs, available through OpenSea's API. Just to pull like all kinds of assets, and then obviously for those games that already have 3D assets like ours, it's easy for me to provide the model, and then all of a sudden Ether one can be following you around. I mean, that'd be very cool, or any other project. So and
I'd be happy to introduce you all to Joe Lee, the CEO, to start conversations, because he's very open to that. So.
Yeah, very cool.
Mm-hmm. Also, introduce me. Also, I want to make sure we show him the Silicon Nexus platform.
Oh, and they're trying to. Did anybody figure out how to stack each other?
Yeah,
it's almost impossible.
Yeah, but, something must have changed with the art, because I don't.
It seems like it just slides off.
Yeah,
I was able to get on there pretty good.
I think they changed something, because you used to be able to do it pretty easily. But they did. They had 13 avatars stacked on each other, like a couple. So, but
they just kind of bounced on its head.
Okay, then. Thank you so much for everyone's time. Gotta log off now. Thank you. Bye. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Good luck with the
Thank
event.
you, Don. We
Bye, guys.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Okay. Quarter after, so 45 minutes, and then we've got Brad's coming on. Brad Jesser from Beyond Enterprises.
And that gives your common danger.